The content of this video is based on research and evidence-based practices. Music industry professionals are featured to share their viewpoints and experiences to invoke more enriching conversation. Please note, research on voice and technique can vary, so it is highly encouraged that viewers pursue and explore further study of music for their own aims. She has been called one of the most dynamic performers of all time, and one of the most unique voices music has ever seen. We know her as Tina Turner, but she was born Anime Bullock in the cotton fields of Nutbush, Tennessee.
I used to chop cotton?
Oh, yes. Well, we started when we were old enough to do the craft. Not everyone can do it. You must be taught how.
At how old?
Starting about 8.
Tina believes that the hardships of sharecropping shaped the voice that we would eventually come to know and love.
You must know by now that I don't have any problems with this drum. When I was growing up, we didn't have telephones. We would stand from one house to the other and throw our voices, if there was a telephone call or something.
Yeah.
So I think a lot of that country growing up, it's good for you in some kind of thing.
I would imagine the elements have a lot to do with it. If you were in a hot, dry or hot, humid, environment, it affects your vocal cords in a negative way, so it gives that little bit, that rasp, that edge in the sound. If you are screaming and yelling for hours and hours, that can also add to the quality of the voice, but it also adds to the strength of the diaphragm, and how you support your sound. Because if you are yelling or screaming or singing, and really trying to launch the voice all the way on the other side of the field, you need a lot of support. It's interesting. And also just like life. Like you wear life and the things that happen to you or your voice, you often can tell people who've been through a lot, not just because of the songs they sing, but the quality in which they sing.
Tina's lifestyle would inevitably change the quality of her voice, and while she was originally not a fan of her voice,
do you like your voice, Tina? Do you think you have a good voice?
In the beginning I didn't. I thought it was kind of ugly because it didn't sound like Dinah Ross. But then afterwards I thought, yeah, it sounds like the guys.
her unique vocal quality would attract the ear of musician Ike Turner. The duo will burst onto the scene with the hit Fool in Love. And music critics called her voice a volcano of sound. Tina is known for having one of the biggest voices in contemporary music. While the voice itself is naturally powerful, the impression of power is also enhanced by the raspiness of the sound. I think she's, for the most part, saying got my good side on the same pitch. I don't know if you noticed, but like when the word was more raspy, it sounded a lot louder. But when the voice was more clearer, it wasn't as loud, but she seems to be singing at basically the same volume.
What I heard was not rasp. I just heard the chorus kind of like make a. It was the way she sang the note. You know what I mean? Like a really hard on the edge of the vocal cord. It was like a growl almost, in that way. And people use that as an expressive thing, right? To like get the actual feeling against it.
So I was curious to know if you know like how that growl or rasp can give the false sense of power.
Yes, because you're actually not singing. You're just holding the chord and putting it together and making a sound. But when you go back and you sing and the chords vibrate, that's a very different thing, right? So the rasp is louder because you're stopping the chord to come together to make a sound instead of releasing the sound and letting it vibrate and spin.
Have you ever heard a classical singer with a raspy voice? The answer is no, because raspiness actually limits the voice's ability to project. At times, this can be heard with Tina.
I just want to tell you.
Other times, the rasp gives the impression that her voice is too loud for the microphone. This is what scientists and sound engineers refer to as sound versus noise. Sound is pleasant to hear, with a constant pitch and periodic motion. Noise is unpleasant to hear, constantly varying in pitch with no regular periodic motion. Singing with an open throat can help the voice produce harmonics and overtones. A sound meter will register volume as being louder for a harmonically rich sound. At times, Tina's voice can give the impression that she is indeed harmonizing with herself. But raspiness is considered a form of vocal distortion. We have all been to a concert where the microphone suddenly got loud and jolted the audience. That's because distortion adds noise to the microphone signal. Adding noise to a sound makes it noisy, so humans will perceive it as being louder.
The sound, that's the reason why it travels, is because you put it in the resonating spot. You put it in here, you put it here, you put it here, right? And all the air goes to those places to carry the sound out. But when you stop the chord, it's not actually a sound, it's a noise, and it doesn't move the air for it to go into the spaces to make the sound go out.
Her body is so strong and vibrant, said the Village Voice. With chiseled arms and sculpted abs, her performances were displays of athleticism.
Does the dancing come as easily as the singing?
Yes, for me. It goes together because the music is the first inspiration. Then the vocal automatically comes, and the movement comes with the feeling that the music and the singing projects. You know, it's all one formula that goes together.
The physical strength of her body and voice would lead her to be approached by Phil Spector to record River Deep, Mountain High.
When I was a little girl, I had a rag.
River Deep is one of Phil Spector's most impressive arrangements and one of the best examples of his brand of what the Village Voice called Wagnerian rock and roll. In the world of classical music, singers who specialize in Wagnerian repertoire have the biggest voices and the ability to soar over the largest orchestras.
Somebody said the difference between a Wagnerian singer and everybody else is that you have to have the strength to be engaged in your body. Like, you are so strong. Those women are like muscular. Right? You just, when you see them in their body, you won't be able to see them because they're all in gowns, but if you feel them, they are so strong. And it is really about physical strength, being able to support the sound for hours and hours and hours.
For Tina to be personally selected to sing what critics call Wagnerian rock speaks to her physical and vocal capabilities. Of the tune, Tina said it was the first time in her career that she was able to just sing. The song had structure, it had melody. She said of Phil, he just wanted me to sing the song. It was my voice that he liked, not my screaming.
Again, big sounds can be beautiful because when she was going into the studio singing with the orchestras, she wasn't pushing her voice and driving her sound to sound big and loud and over the top, where it was big and full and just enough, supported just enough, right? Still beautiful, because there is a point of like beautiful, and then when it starts to get edgy, I always say when the sound starts to fray at the ends, it means that you pushed the instrument too far.
Of her tenure with Ike, Tina says most of the music was her screaming. Tina describing her singing as screaming with Ike would imply that she feels that she's at her limits, either in terms of range or vocal power. Looking at the music that Ike is writing for her in this part of her career, the arrangements look like this. The lowest note he's had Tina sing is around tenor low D. And he would even take her as high as soprano high B. But what's consistent throughout most of the music he's writing for her is that low G or low A will be the lowest point of the song, generally found in her vocal line. And her power or money note seems to be around E or F at the top of the stop. It is also the note that she can project without a microphone. During her tenure with Ike, we see Tina's first venture into solo recording. But it is important because it shows the versatility of Tina's artistry as a musician and vocalist, and her ability to adapt her vocal colors and choices to the genres she's singing.
Just another Louisiana morning, Sunday rain falling without.
I think those were down to low A or low G.
It's like she's talking. That's how she speaks. If you listen to the way she talks.
No, it's very natural for me. It's a performance. I get totally wrapped up into what I'm doing for the people.
If you remember the way she talks, it's just right. It's right there. You don't just take off running when you sing. Or take off running when when you are training or when you're running. You walk, you jog, you run. And so it's this very same thing of like when you speak, it's like the more you speak in the way that you are preparing the voice to sing, the easier the singing is. Even when I'm talking, my little chicken chest is rattling right now because I'm in the right resonance, right? So if I wanted to sing, I could sing, or just add a little bit more to my speaking voice and I add a little bit more air to it, add a little bit more space to it, and then I can sing.
In school, they're just beginning now to have their own.
To me, it's the very same thing. That's what she was doing.
Her solo debut is a country album. One of the singles was Bayou Soul. It is in the fashion of the outlaw country music that was permeating much of the 70s country music landscape. This album is followed up with Acid Queen, which one could argue is her first solo extended rock music offering. This is followed up with Rock, which is composed of primarily pop, R&B, and blues tunes, which music critics said it will make her pop and soul competitors quiver. Her last 70s solo offering is a straight-ahead disco album titled Love Explosion. This early solo period would also put context on artistic struggles that will grow to plague the Ike and Tina Turner years. Tina's solo debut, Tina Turns the Country On, was welcomed and accepted as a straight-ahead country album upon its release, as it came at a time when many black artists were venturing into country music. But the album would be nominated for Best R&B Vocal Performance, losing to Aretha Franklin's Ain't Nothing Like the Real Thing. Comparing Bayou Song to Ain't Nothing, they are worlds apart and technically should not have been in the same category. But what it actually sounds like is like this.
I've been thinking, baby, about you and me.
Just another Louisiana morning, Sunday rain falling without warning.
Take our love, take us from this wild country.
The bulk of Ike and Tina's accolades came from the R&B categories in music. However, in the real world, they were always more closely associated with rock and roll. Jet magazine referred to Ike as the maestro of rock, acknowledging him cutting what some critics refer to as the very first rock and roll record, Rocket 88. Life magazine said it wasn't until they appeared on the bill with the Rolling Stones in 1969 at Madison Square Garden that they caught on nationally. And Ebony magazine said they were one of the highest paid and most in-demand rock acts in music. Ike told Ebony magazine in 1971, "Black stations say we're too white. White stations say we're too black, but we are working the biggest rock spots in music." After the success of I Said Queen, Tina expressed wanting to do more rock music. But did that mean singing different styles of rock music, or being recognized as a towering figure within the genre?
What do you think the ingredients are that worked really at this point in time to make this happen now?
I'm going to tell you what the real truth is. Management. You got to have somebody there that will do your dream for you. Somebody else's dream is not yours.
What's love got to do with it?
She would achieve both of those things when she releases Private Dancer, the lead single that would start Tina's ascent to solo superstardom was her rendition of Al Green's Let's Stay Together.
Let me say the same. I've always loved Al Green. His songs have always just been a great crossover. I loved that we didn't stray too far away from the original of Al Green. It was just my version and another version musically, but staying right with the same sound of what was original and not destroying that.
From a vocal standpoint, you'll notice the song structure follows the same arrangement as her music with the Ike and Tina Turner Revue. The lowest notes in the phrases are around low G.
Let me say the same.
And her power note is still that E and F at the top of the staff. And again, that is the same note that she can project without a microphone. And similar to Ike, she even can extend up to soprano high B. The range hasn't really changed. The best parts of her voice have remained the same, but what's changed is the music and production around her.
You must understand, oh, the touch of your hand makes my pulse react.
Even What's Love Got to Do with it, like much more higher resonating forward sound without being aggressive. Like she's not forcing the chords to make a sound, to make a big sound.
The music she made with Ike required a lot of volume and power in all parts of her range, because Ike's production style was very, very loud. With this new music on songs such as Private Dancer, she can croon over soft instrumentation.
It is very much more like sultry and sexy and much more about line than it is about making big sounds every single time. There's none of that the early days of Tina, where she was singing for her life. That's a very different type of, singing that she was doing.
The success of Private Dancer would also establish Tina as a cultural style icon, namely because of her big wigs, with her telling Spin magazine, "I am just legs and hair."
Tina Turner is known for the very huge wigs, but I'm not sure if you've seen her without a wig, but she has a big forehead, very big cheekbones.
A singer's face.
So one thing I noticed, with dramatic voices in classical music, I'm thinking like a Joan Sutherland, Shirley Verrett, Birgit Nilsson, it's a very strong features here, as opposed to more flatter features on someone like a Kathleen Battle. What is that correlation between the face and the amount of volume one is able to produce?
Singers have a specific body type, just like gymnasts have a specific body type. I think it also has to do, again, with resonance, with sound. We are our microphones. Most singers have a very large chest. You can't see it on there, but a very large sternum, very plump cheeks, big cheeks, big face, big forehead. Again, it is just the nature of my line of work. And so back in the day, the divas, you remember, used to have those big bouffant hair, those big wigs and stuff. A lot of it was because you were on a very large stage. And again, that's another thing. We were born to be on these very large stages.
Tina's singer's face allows her to produce the volume that she's known for.
Well, the men come in these places, and the men are all the same.
Private Dancer also marks the start of her singing differently.
You don't think of them as human. You don't think of them at all.
Sometime between Private Dancer and Break Every Rule, Tina gets her nose done, and this changes the quality of her sound.
Various singers such as Michael Jackson, Toni Braxton, and even Tina Turner have talked about how the nose job affected the quality of their voice. All right, same thing a few years later with a different nose. In the first one, when it's not as up here, there she has more oomph at the bottom. As opposed to trying to sing the bottom from up here.
Well, it looked like she was checking. She was doing the singer thing. So she thinks she slipped because she was doing the thing about, if you notice in the first one, checking the jaw and checking the, where the voice was placed. And she was singing low. We singers know that. I was like, oh, she's checking in and she's listening, but then in the second clip, she realized she could not sing on them chords like that so low in the jaw. And so she went and put it in her nose, sang it a little bit higher, so even the tone, the volume of the tone. When she right behind the nose, but she go, she realized that you can't sing all night down there in your jaw. The nasal structure, I would think that it would change the sound, because then again, you are cutting back that bone where the breath hits against, right? That's your microphone, right? That's your natural resonator. I think it would affect it and definitely make your sound different.
This nasal quality, which has already become a part of her vocal identity, will become even more pronounced on her follow-up album, Break Every Rule. Break Every Rule is arguably the most important album in Tina's career. She would support this album with the Break Every Rule tour, which was the largest of its time. Oftentimes, there is one show or one musical piece that tells you everything you need to know about an artist. And for Tina, that is the Live in Rio concert, which opens up with her rendition of Addicted to Love. From the opening chords, Tina walks out to a world record-breaking audience of over 180,000 people. During this performance, she is 48 years old.
Possible too that, I mean, there's a talent there. Just somebody for singing for 20 years still doesn't sound. I mean, do you know what I'm saying? It's like you've got this voice. So. It's a gift, don't you think? I mean, also.
Well, why should I lose my voice at 40? I don't understand what's going on.
Vocally, this piece of music tells you everything you need to know about Tina's voice. Her music with Ike kept her within the range of G to G. Her early solo music is still within that same range. The range for Addicted to Love is F sharp to F sharp. With Ike and her solo music, low G was typically the lowest point in her vocal lines. On Addicted to Love, the main verses generally resolve on low G sharp. From Tina's very first single, Fall in Love, Ike would make sure Tina found her way to the E and F at the top of the style. Because it is the loudest and most powerful note in her voice. That's the same note she can project without a microphone. And looking at her new music, such as Let's Stay Together, that is still the same note producers are arranging her music to be centered around. The chorus of Addicted to Love keeps Tina on high E and F sharp at the top of the style. Earlier, we discussed how rasp can sometimes give a false impression of vocal power, when in actuality it's limiting the voice's ability to project. In this verse, the tone is clear and the voice is very, very big. But once the rasp enters the sound and she goes for the same note, there is noticeably less volume she's able to produce. In this single piece of music, we hear the raspy, heavy vocal textures of her time with Ike, and the bright nasal quality that she will become known for as a solo artist. The verses are sung lightly, and all of her power is used in the chorus. Addicted to Love is a combination of all of the colors, sounds, and textures she's able to employ from the bottom to the very top of her range. She is doing this in front of over 180,000 people. It's only fitting that the song ends with her asking, after 30 years, the world was finally ready to acknowledge Tina Turner as the queen of rock and roll. While Rio represents the peak of Tina's commercial and professional success, it also represents a starting point of her wanting to transition into retirement. By this point in her career, Tina had been performing for nearly 30 years. Between 1960 and 1976, she and Ike released at least one album every year. And when not in the studio, they were on the road doing almost 200 shows a year, sometimes performing twice in one night. Transitioning to larger stadiums as a solo act just meant the workload shifted.
The big venues, what people don't realize, is such a sound, and the vocal cord is fighting against all of that electric sound and speakers. You can't sing. No matter how much control I try, as I walk on stage, I'm always a little sharp or a little flat.
You think Tina will ever retire?
I don't know. You've known her longer. I'm not going to say, because I've heard that she was doing a farewell tour a few years ago, and now she's doing another one, so I'm not going to say.
Last farewell tour, I didn't announce it until the end of the tour. I said, I won't be doing it anymore. That wasn't the beginning of that tour. The beginning of this one, I have said it from the beginning, no more.
By this point in her career, Tina was a major attraction in Europe, with Foreign Affair marking her first Europe-only tour. Throughout her career, her most receptive audiences were often European.
The British and I think the Europeans have taken you kind of to their heart. I mean,
yes. I came here in 1966 was the first time. Rivers Deep Mountains High was a huge success in London, and I was thrilled. And then after that, my career started here many years later with Martin Ware producing a song called Let's Stay Together.
In an interview with Life magazine in 1970, Tina spoke on her interactions with black and white American audiences, saying, "The reactions are mixed. The black people may sometimes respond. The white audiences want me to sing certain songs, but they don't show their feelings." Looking at some of Tina's musical influences such as Mahalia Jackson, Rosetta Tharpe, and Marianne Williams, a common thread is that those women were also bigger stars in Europe than they were in America.
In the last 5 years, she's performed for at least 7 million fans all over the world. And with her life story on the screen and what may be her final concert tour on stage, this summer could be the pinnacle of her career. Tina Turner is on a roll.
After the Foreign Affair tour, she finds success again in North America with the release of the film What's Love Got to Do With It, and she would decide to pursue a North America-only tour with the What's Love tour, which is a rehashing of the set, music, and costumes of the Foreign Affair tour. Between both tours, Tina is between 50 and 53 years old, which is the later prime years for a woman. Both tours gave the audience a final look at seeing Tina at her best. While she's performing as great as she ever has, we can hear signs of aging in her vocal approach.
Those type of popular singers can manipulate their sound and their technique in a very different way. So they're able to create sounds. That's interesting, but I do imagine as the nose, I thought if the nose got thinner, it would make the sound thinner.
when the sound is more, it's not as big. And it would take on more of that quality as she gets older and older. And I notice this more in popular, singers of non-classical music. The older, like, women particularly become, so like a Shaka Khan or something, Aretha Franklin, and of course Tina, the sound becomes more, How does that sound help them negotiate whatever changes are happening in the voice?
Yes, because they tend to stick it in the nose or stick it so far forward away from the vocal cord, because sometimes that's really the only way that after years and years of singing, you can actually reach those notes. When you don't make the sound with the throat, when you make the sound that's a little bit higher, like almost above the chord, that nasal sound takes a lot of the pressure off the throat. Particularly women, as you age, like the voice ages, and just the menopause and the hormones and all those things really affect your voice.
Any physical changes will show up in the voice first, and her shifting to a more nasal focus is her way of negotiating these changes and the physical demands of singing and dancing. Life magazine wrote in 1970, she burst onto the stage, and for 65 explosive minutes, she doesn't stop moving. By the time we get to Wildest Dreams, we can now see 40 years of work catching up to her physically.
I'm about to do something that I don't normally do on stage. I'm going to sit down and sing for you. I'll sing songs that you already know, only I've made a few slight changes.
Songs such as Undercover Agent for the Blues, which originally had choreography, are now performed sitting down. There's music such as Wildest Dreams, which is essentially spoken word, which gives her another way to take a break. Let's Stay Together is probably the biggest indicator of a change happening in the voice. Not only is the song performed sitting, but it's gotten a complete rearrangement. Let's Stay Together is arguably one of Tina's most difficult songs because it has a lot of exposed singing. An exposed note is a note left out in the open, often with very little accompaniment, making any imperfections more noticeable. While we don't know when Tina would have started menopause, we do know that her inconsistency in hitting her notes was another motivator for her wanting to retire.
So it started to become harder. I couldn't hit my notes. Damn it, I wanted to hit those notes. And I had to really fake those notes somehow. It took every drop of energy and life out of me.
A high E and F are her money notes. And if those notes are starting to become shaky on a song like Let's Stay Together, that would be very obvious. So what does she do? She drops the key.
You get older, your knees go because the cartilage gets thin. It's the same thing with your vocal cords. Especially when you're dealing with women, once you go through menopause, your body changes. And that's just not, your uterus and all stuff. It's everything, and including your vocal cords, your larynx, all the mechanisms that go into making vocal production. So, and once you get older, you're also losing physical body strength. So you don't have that support to keep the breath moving up. And then you also just have this kind of just breaking down a little bit. It's very sad. Aging, getting old is a thing.
But all of these changes are things the performer would feel, then the audience would notice. From the critic's perspective, Tina was performing as good as ever. So it came as another shock when she announced she was retiring again.
But the time will come. I have an instinct about it. And I think I won't completely retire. I'll do something. My desire at the moment is to just sing quietly.
I'd like to sing a song from my recent album for you.
What's most significant about the last two albums is we see another shift in Tina's music, which is reflective of her wanting to sing more quietly.
The song is called Whatever You Need, Whatever You Want.
This is most reflected in the song Whatever You Need. On listening to the opening chords, it resembles Desiree's You Gotta Be.
What other lives have I known your kiss? What forgotten moments have I? Listen as your day unfolds. Challenge what the future holds. Try and keep your...
The link between both songs is both have a relaxed but steady tempo that provides a comfortable pulsing rhythm. Both Tina and Desiree use a gentle vocal delivery in these songs, which gives them a softer, more intimate quality.
I worked to get to this point, so I'm not going to say I'm ready to step down now. Yeah. But just a different, intimate kind of a staging, so I could just sing for the people.
Unlike Tina's more belted or intense performances, this softer approach brings a sense of calm and warmth, making it feel as if she's talking directly to her audience rather than performing in front of a large crowd. The style of Whatever You Need will be replicated by divas such as Celine Dion in the early and mid-2000s. Taking Whatever You Need and likening it to the music of Celine and Desiree shows that if given a chance, Tina could sing the beautiful music effectively. Dion and Desiree universally are considered fantastic singers and vocalists, but to this very day, opinions are still split on whether or not Tina was a great singer.
What would make someone think that Tina Turner wasn't a great singer? Whether or not you like the quality of her voice is like voices are, it's like food. Some people you like the way they cook, and some things you don't like, right? It's a taste thing. To say that that woman wasn't a great singer in every form and all of the different sounds that she could make, right, all throughout her career, and all of the phrasing in the motion is just kind of very embarrassing to me. People don't like it because it makes them uncomfortable. It challenges the notion. It challenges you in every way, sonically, emotionally. It's in your face. But those of us who know the Black church tradition, that's singing for your life. That is what you do.
You know, my voice is not a pretty voice. It's strong. It's deep. At the moment, I'm speaking more in a soft voice, almost a falsetto, because if I speak in my natural voice, you see how big and how low it is. So basically, when I talk, sometimes it's a half falsetto voice because it bothers my own ears.
Singing at its root is the art of creating musical sounds, and Tina did this undeniably.
So help me if you can, I'm feeling down.
While her voice may have divided audiences, it took remarkable endurance and artistry to perform at her level.
When I was a little girl, I had a rag doll.
Adrienne Warren spent 5 years portraying Tina Turner in the Broadway production Tina.
Being Tina Turner took its toll. Pain to her ankle and knee, a herniated disc. She hardly ever leaves the stage for the show's 2 hours and 45 minutes.
Tina did what Adrienne did for over 50 years. And she would do it again one last time on her final tour. Even as she aged, Tina's voice adapted, allowing her to continue performing songs like Private Dancer, We Don't Need Another Hero, and Proud Mary in their original keys. Again, using Addicted to Love as a baseline for her vocal changes. You'll notice in the past, she was becoming more and more nasal on the chorus. But by 2009, she was taking a lower option on the chorus. Yet, she still had an high E, albeit more so screamy in quality. If you look at a voice as a circle of life, some people say that the voice at the very end of a career or life is very similar to the voice at the beginning when someone starts singing. Listening to Ike and Tina's first singles, such as Fool in Love and It's Gonna Work Out Fine, you'll notice she takes a more screamy approach to those same notes.
Do you like your voice? I haven't found one that I wanted to replace it with yet, but it's a weird voice. I'm hearing it. Sometimes I'm thinking, who is that? It's me.
While Tina may not be most singers' model for vocal influence, it's her resilience and authenticity that set her apart. Despite no formal vocal training, she learned to refine and define her sound, maintaining a standard few could reach. She's more than an icon. She's rightfully the queen of rock and roll.